"It's just attention, it doesn't mean anything," she smirked while posting thirst traps, so I gave my attention to someone who valued it, and hers turned into desperation fast. I never thought I'd be the guy questioning my fiancé's social media habits, but there I was, watching Sienna transform from the woman I proposed to into someone I barely recognized. What started as innocent lifestyle posts had evolved into something that made me uncomfortable in ways I struggled to articulate without sounding controlling. I owned a commercial HVAC repair business that I'd built from nothing over 7 years, working 16-hour days during peak seasons and earning a reputation for reliability in our coastal community. Sienna was a lifestyle influencer with about 40,000 followers when we met, posting content about fashion, wellness, and beach living that seemed harmless enough. She was beautiful, ambitious, and initially supportive of my work, even featuring my business in some of her content about supporting local entrepreneurs. We'd been engaged for 8 months and had our beachfront wedding planned for September, with deposits paid and invitations sent. I thought we were building something solid together, combining my stability with her creativity and social media savvy. Looking back, I realize I was funding her lifestyle while she built her personal brand, but at the time it felt like partnership. The shift started gradually around 3 months ago when Sienna began posting increasingly provocative content. Beach photo shoots in barely their bikinis, workout videos that focused more on her body than actual fitness tips, and selfies with captions designed to generate thirsty comments from her growing male follower base. Her engagement rate skyrocketed, and with them came brand partnerships with supplement companies and swimwear brands that required even more revealing content. I tried addressing my concerns diplomatically, explaining that while I supported her career, the direction of her content made me uncomfortable as her future husband. Her response was always the same dismissive laugh followed by some variation of "It's just business, Blake, it's just attention from strangers online, it doesn't mean anything in real life." The breaking point came last Tuesday when she posted a bikini photo shoot that gained over 15,000 likes in 6 hours, with comments from men offering everything from dinner dates to explicit propositions. When I mentioned that the attention seemed to be crossing lines that made me uncomfortable, Sienna exploded with frustration that had clearly been building for weeks. She accused me of being insecure and controlling, claiming that successful influencers needed to push boundaries to grow their platforms and that my blue-collar mindset couldn't understand the nuances of personal branding. Then she dropped the bomb that changed everything. She wanted to explore an open relationship because she was curious about her options and felt restricted by traditional relationship expectations, but she still wanted to proceed with our wedding because she valued what we'd built together financially and socially. I sat there processing her proposal, realizing she wanted the security and respectability of our engagement while having the freedom to pursue whatever opportunities arose from her growing online presence. She seemed confident that I would struggle to attract anyone while she enjoyed her newfound liberation with the roster of admirers sliding into her direct messages daily. Her assumption that I'd desperately cling to our arrangement while she explored better options revealed exactly how she viewed my worth in the relationship. So I shocked her completely by agreeing immediately, telling her that if she wanted to give and receive attention from others, I should absolutely have the same freedom to connect with people who might actually appreciate what I brought to the table. The look of panic that flashed across her face before she composed herself told me everything I needed to know about her true expectations for this arrangement. She'd assumed I would fight for her attention while she had her fun, not that I might discover what it felt like to be genuinely valued by someone else. The next few days leading up to our wedding venue walkthrough gave me time to process everything while Sienna threw herself into damage control mode, posting even more provocative content as if proving her point about attention being meaningless. I decided to start my investigation where I least expected to find allies: her own wedding party. Tessa, her maid of honor and longtime college friend, had always been polite but distant with me, and I'd assumed it was typical protective best friend behavior. Quincy, one of her bridesmaids who was pursuing her graduate degree in psychology, seemed to analyze everyone she met with clinical detachment. Luna, another bridesmaid who worked at the local animal rescue, had this habit of looking uncomfortable whenever Sienna dominated conversations, which happened frequently. During our venue walkthrough at the coastal resort where we'd planned to exchange vows, I found myself separated from Sienna while she posed for content with the sunset backdrop, directing her photographer to capture multiple angles for her wedding planning series. That's when Tessa approached me with information that shattered my remaining illusions about my fiancé's integrity. She revealed that Sienna had been secretly meeting with Derek, a fitness influencer with 200,000 followers, calling their connection purely professional while posting increasingly intimate workout videos together at his private gym. These collaboration sessions happened during hours when she told me she was having girls' nights or attending networking events, and the chemistry in their shared content was impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention. Qley joined our conversation with the analytical perspective I'd grown to appreciate during our brief interactions at engagement parties. She explained that she'd been watching Sienna treat me like a business investment rather than a romantic partner for months, using my financial stability to fund her lifestyle upgrades while pursuing what she called brand growth opportunities with other men. The psychology student in her recognized classic manipulation patterns, how Sienna would dismiss my achievements while taking credit for our joint successes, how she'd isolate me from my friends by claiming they didn't understand her career demands, and how she'd systematically eroded my confidence by suggesting I was lucky to be with someone of her caliber and social media status. Luna's contribution was perhaps the most damaging because it came from genuine concern rather than analytical observation. She admitted she'd been hoping someone would help me see how Sienna manipulated every situation to center herself while dismissing others' feelings as irrelevant to her goals. The animal rescue worker had witnessed Sienna's treatment of service staff, vendors, and even her own family members with a pattern of entitlement and contempt that made Luna cringe during wedding planning meetings. She'd watched Sienna berate the florist for not understanding her vision, demand free upgrades from the caterer while threatening negative reviews, and speak about me in my absence as if I were a convenient accessory rather than her chosen life partner. The three women had been discussing their concerns about our relationship for weeks, watching Sienna's behavior escalate while feeling helpless to intervene without seeming like jealous friends trying to sabotage her happiness. They'd witnessed her laughing about my concerns regarding her social media content, calling me old-fashioned and boring to anyone who'd listen while simultaneously bragging about my business success and the security I provided. Tessa revealed that Sienna had been asking her about divorce laws and prenuptial agreements, not because she was protecting assets she'd earned, but because she was calculating how to maximize her potential gains from our marriage while minimizing her obligations to actually be a supportive partner. The picture they painted was of someone who viewed our upcoming wedding not as the beginning of our life together, but as the completion of a strategic acquisition that would provide her with financial freedom to pursue whatever opportunities arose from her growing online presence. Armed with this devastating information about Sienna's true character and motivated by genuine connections with people who actually cared about my well-being, I decided to test her commitment to the open relationship arrangement she'd proposed with such confidence. I announced my plans to take Tessa to an upcoming wine tasting event at a vineyard she'd mentioned loving during our venue conversation, Qley to a psychology conference dinner where she was presenting her research on social media addiction, and Luna to volunteer at the animal rescue where her passion for helping abandoned creatures had impressed me more than any Instagram post ever could. I framed these as meaningful connections within our existing social circle, emphasizing how much I valued getting to know the people who mattered to Sienna and discovering what genuine appreciation felt like after months of being treated like a walking bank account. Sienna's reaction was instantaneous and completely contradicted everything she'd claimed about attention being meaningless and open relationships being liberating for both partners. She became possessive and furious in ways that revealed the double standard she'd constructed to protect her arrangement with Derek while limiting my freedom to explore connections with people who might actually value my character over my financial stability. She tried establishing rules that would allow her to continue her professional collaborations with fitness influencers while restricting me to meaningless interactions with strangers who couldn't threaten her security or expose her manipulation tactics to people within our social circle. The hypocrisy became glaring when she insisted that her collaborations with Derek and other male influencers constituted professional networking essential for her career growth, while simultaneously claiming that my plans with her friends represented inappropriate boundary crossing that could damage her relationships and reputation. I pointed out the obvious flaw in her logic. If attention truly didn't mean anything as she'd claimed when dismissing my concerns about her provocative content, she shouldn't mind me giving my attention to people who actually appreciated my reliability, humor, and genuine interest in their lives rather than viewing me as a financial stepping stone toward their personal goals. Her mask began slipping as she realized her confident assumption about my dating prospects might be completely wrong, and that the women in her own wedding party found me more appealing as a person than she did as a fiancé. She'd assumed I would desperately pursue random women who didn't know me while she enjoyed the validation of men who wanted her primarily for her physical appearance, never considering that I might connect with intelligent, accomplished women who valued emotional maturity over superficial excitement. The panic in her eyes when I casually mentioned plans with Tessa, Quincy, and Luna told me everything about how she'd calculated the risks of an open relationship, assuming she held all the cards while I scrambled for scraps of attention from strangers. Watching her scramble to rewrite the rules she'd established with such certainty was enlightening in ways I hadn't expected when I'd agreed to her proposal. She wanted the freedom to explore her options while maintaining complete control over mine, never imagining that her own friends might prefer my company to her increasingly self-absorbed conversation topics. The woman who'd dismissed my concerns about boundaries was suddenly desperate to establish them when they might protect her interests rather than restrict her freedom. Her confident declaration that attention didn't mean anything evaporated the moment she realized I might receive genuine appreciation from women who valued substance over social media metrics, making her question whether she'd miscalculated the entire power dynamic of our relationship and opened a door she couldn't close. Through my time with each woman, I learned devastating truths about Sienna's manipulation while experiencing what genuine appreciation felt like for the first time in years. The wine tasting with Tessa revealed that Sienna had borrowed $3,000 from her savings account for what she claimed were emergency wedding expenses, but Tessa discovered through mutual friends that the money had funded a luxury spa retreat with Derek where they'd posted intimate couples massage photos that looked nothing like professional collaboration content. Tessa had been too embarrassed to confront Sienna directly about the lie, but watching me struggle with my fiancé's behavior had motivated her to finally speak up about the pattern of deception she'd witnessed throughout our engagement. My evening with Quincy at the psychology conference dinner was equally illuminating, as she shared social media analytics she'd compiled that proved Sienna had been deliberately scheduling her most provocative posts during my work hours to maximize engagement while I was unavailable to object or feel uncomfortable about the explicit comments flooding her content. The psychology graduate student had noticed this pattern months ago and realized it represented calculated manipulation designed to avoid confrontation while pursuing validation from other men, treating our relationship like a research project where she controlled all the variables to achieve her desired outcomes. Luna's invitation to volunteer at the animal rescue provided the most heartbreaking revelations about Sienna's character, as she shared screenshots of private messages where my fiancé mocked my boring stability while planning to use our marriage as financial security for her influencer career expansion into more lucrative content creation opportunities. These messages revealed Sienna's plan to leverage our wedding photos and married lifestyle content to attract brand partnerships with companies targeting engaged couples, essentially turning our relationship into a business venture where I was the unknowing silent partner funding her personal brand development. Meanwhile, each interaction showed me what authentic connections felt like after years of being treated like a convenient accessory rather than a valued partner. Tessa appreciated my questions about her art history background and remembered details from our conversations weeks later, something Sienna had never done despite 3 years together. Quincy found my perspectives on building a business from nothing fascinating rather than boring, asking thoughtful follow-up questions about challenges I'd overcome and goals I was working toward instead of dismissing my achievements as luck or circumstance. Luna's excitement about my willingness to help with animal rescue work revealed someone who valued kindness and reliability over flashy gestures and social media documentation. The contrast was staggering between Sienna's constant need for external validation through likes and comments versus these women's appreciation for genuine conversation and shared experiences that didn't require photographic evidence to feel meaningful. I realized I'd been starving for basic respect and interest in my thoughts, feelings, and accomplishments while Sienna treated me like a human ATM whose primary value was funding her lifestyle and providing stability she could take for granted. Each conversation with her friends showed me what it felt like to be seen as interesting, funny, and worth getting to know rather than just financially useful and emotionally convenient when she needed someone reliable to fall back on between more exciting romantic adventures with fitness influencers and social media collaborators who offered temporary thrills but no long-term security. Sienna's carefully constructed world imploded faster than I'd anticipated when Derek's girlfriend discovered their affair through tagged location posts that contradicted his claims about working alone during their private training sessions. The fitness influencer's partner threatened to expose everything publicly, including intimate messages and compromising photos that would destroy both their brands and reveal the unprofessional nature of their collaboration to sponsors and followers who believed they were witnessing legitimate business partnerships. Derek immediately distanced himself from Sienna to protect his more lucrative sponsorship deals, leaving her scrambling to explain why her most popular content suddenly disappeared and why her engagement rates plummeted without his cross-promotion boosting her visibility. Her follower count began dropping as sponsors distanced themselves from the drama, and several brands canceled partnerships when they realized her audience was primarily attracted to provocative content rather than genuine interest in the products she promoted. The companies that had initially been excited about her engagement metrics discovered that her followers weren't converting to sales because they weren't actually interested in lifestyle advice or product recommendations from someone whose primary appeal was physical appearance rather than authentic expertise or relatable personality. The family crisis that followed was equally devastating when Sienna's conservative parents discovered her provocative content through relatives who'd been following her account and finally decided to speak up about their concerns. Her mother called me directly, apologizing profusely for her daughter's behavior and asking if there was anything they could do to help salvage our relationship, not realizing that I'd already learned too much about Sienna's true character to consider reconciliation. The family meetings that followed involved tears, ultimatums, and threats to cut off financial support if she didn't dramatically change her online presence and commitment to our engagement. Meanwhile, my connections with the wedding party became increasingly obvious to everyone in our social circle, creating visible chemistry that made Sienna realize she was losing control of the narrative she'd constructed about being the desirable one in our relationship. She watched Tessa laugh at my jokes during group dinners, saw Quincy seek out my opinions during conversations about current events, and witnessed Luna's genuine excitement when I offered to help with animal rescue fundraising events. The women who'd once orbited around her social media success were now gravitating toward someone who treated them like interesting individuals rather than potential content for lifestyle posts. The bachelor and bachelorette parties became disasters when guests openly questioned why anyone would marry someone who sought validation from strangers while dismissing their partner's feelings as irrelevant obstacles to personal brand development. Sienna's bridesmaids spent most of her bachelorette party discussing their concerns about her treatment of me, while my groomsmen expressed relief that I seemed happier and more confident than I'd been in months. The contrast between our respective celebrations was stark, with her party devolving into drama and complaints while mine became an opportunity for genuine friendship and honest conversation about relationships and personal growth. Sienna attempted to sabotage my relationships by spreading lies about my intentions and character, claiming I was manipulating her friends to get revenge for her success rather than acknowledging that these women genuinely preferred my company to her increasingly self-centered personality. Her manipulation tactics backfired spectacularly when Tessa, Quincy, and Luna compared notes and realized her pattern of deception extended far beyond our relationship, recognizing how she'd been playing them against each other and using their loyalty to fuel her ego while offering nothing meaningful in return for their friendship and emotional support. When confronted by Tessa, Quincy, and Luna with evidence of her lies and manipulation, Sienna's carefully maintained influencer persona completely collapsed into desperate rage that revealed the entitled person she'd been hiding behind filtered photos and motivational captions. The woman who'd built her brand on positivity and self-love turned vicious when faced with accountability, attacking her former friends with personal insults and accusations that exposed how little she actually valued anyone who couldn't advance her social media career or provide financial benefits. She demanded that I choose between her and her former friends, unable to comprehend that her quest for external validation had systematically destroyed every meaningful relationship in her life except the transactional one she'd cultivated with me. Her threats and ultimatums revealed the depth of her delusion about our relationship dynamics, as she genuinely believed that my connections with intelligent, accomplished women were somehow inferior to her superficial interactions with fitness influencers and social media personalities who viewed her primarily as content creation opportunities. She couldn't understand that authentic appreciation from people who valued character over appearance was infinitely more satisfying than the hollow validation she received from strangers who knew nothing about her actual personality or life beyond the carefully curated image she presented online. I called off the beachfront wedding 3 days before the ceremony, explaining to both families that our relationship had been built on her need for security rather than love, and that I'd learned the difference between being valued and being used during our brief experiment with an open relationship. The conversations with her parents were particularly difficult, as they'd invested significant money in the celebration and had been looking forward to seeing their daughter settled with someone stable, but they understood my decision after witnessing her behavior during the recent family crisis meetings about her social media content. My own family expressed relief rather than disappointment, admitting they'd been concerned about Sienna's self-absorption and her treatment of service workers during wedding planning meetings but hadn't wanted to interfere with what they hoped was temporary stress-related behavior. The vendors were surprisingly understanding when I explained the situation, with several offering partial refunds or credit toward future events, suggesting they'd witnessed enough entitled bride behavior to recognize when someone was escaping a problematic situation rather than simply getting cold feet about commitment. Sienna's final desperate attempts to win me back involved deleting her social media accounts and promising to abandon her influencer career completely, not because she genuinely recognized the damage her attention-seeking behavior had caused, but because she was panicking about losing the financial security I represented. Her promises to change rang hollow after I'd experienced what healthy appreciation actually felt like through my connections with Tessa, Quincy, and Luna, making it clear that her sudden willingness to sacrifice her social media presence was motivated by desperation rather than authentic personal growth or genuine love. Her threats about me never finding someone as good as her revealed how disconnected she was from reality, unable to recognize that her physical appearance couldn't compensate for her lack of emotional maturity, empathy, or genuine interest in anyone else's thoughts and feelings. The woman who'd spent months dismissing my concerns and treating my stability as something she deserved rather than appreciated was now claiming that I was making the biggest mistake of my life by walking away from her superficial beauty and social media following, completely missing the irony that these were exactly the things that had made our relationship feel hollow and transactional rather than meaningful and reciprocal. 8 months later, I had built a stable relationship with Quincy, whose psychology background helped her appreciate emotional maturity over shallow excitement and drama. Our relationship developed naturally without social media documentation, built on mutual respect and private moments rather than public validation and the need to prove our happiness to strangers online. She understood the importance of boundaries and genuine communication, never dismissing my concerns as insecurity or treating my achievements as stepping stones toward her personal goals. We shared quiet dinners where conversation flowed effortlessly, weekend hikes where we talked about everything and nothing, and comfortable silences that felt more intimate than any public display of affection ever could. My HVAC business thrived as I focused on authentic relationships and meaningful work rather than managing someone else's emotional chaos and financial demands. Without the constant drain of funding Sienna's lifestyle and dealing with her manufactured drama, I had energy to pursue expansion opportunities and community involvement that brought genuine satisfaction. I hired 2 additional technicians, upgraded my equipment, and established a scholarship program for trade school students, accomplishments that felt significant because they reflected my actual values rather than someone else's expensive tastes and social media aspirations. Sienna's influencer career collapsed completely after the Derek scandal, forcing her to move back with her parents while attempting desperate comeback strategies that only highlighted her inability to create genuine content beyond provocative photos and lifestyle flexing. Her attempts to rebrand as a relationship advice expert backfired when former followers pointed out the hypocrisy of someone who destroyed her engagement offering guidance about healthy partnerships. The brands that had once eagerly partnered with her now associated her name with drama and unprofessional behavior, making her essentially unemployable in the influencer marketing space she'd sacrificed everything to dominate. The few mutual friends who still maintained contact with both of us reported that she'd cycled through several short-term relationships with men who were initially attracted to her appearance but quickly grew tired of her constant need for validation and her inability to contribute anything meaningful beyond physical attractiveness and social media presence. Each relationship followed the same pattern: initial excitement over dating someone conventionally beautiful, followed by growing frustration with her self-absorption and entitlement, ending with them walking away when she expected them to fund her lifestyle while offering nothing substantial in return. When Sienna tried reaching out through mutual contacts 6 months after our canceled wedding, claiming she'd learned to value real connection over online attention through therapy and personal reflection, my response was simple and definitive. I explained that authentic appreciation doesn't require losing someone to be discovered, and I'd found someone who valued me from the beginning rather than after learning my worth through absence and desperation. Quincy had never needed a wake-up call to treat me with respect, never dismissed my feelings as obstacles to her personal goals, and never viewed our relationship as a business transaction disguised as romance. The final irony was that Sienna's quest for attention from thousands of strangers had cost her the genuine appreciation of everyone who actually knew her, while my willingness to walk away from someone who took me for granted had led me to someone who treasured what I brought to the relationship naturally. Her social media accounts remained deleted, not because she'd genuinely grown but because returning to that platform would mean facing the public embarrassment of her spectacular fall from grace and the reality that her superficial brand of content no longer attracted the engagement rates that had once made her feel important and successful in ways that didn't require actual accomplishment or personal development.